What's going on, guys? It's Ripple Tinker, and welcome back to Operation Chromite Turn 9. This is Historical Board Gaming's The Korean War. Not a very action-packed turn for this time around. So, coming up to the calendar quick, we are looking at the months of October, November, and December 1951. And as always, we'll start with the North Koreans. The North Koreans had 44 to spend. They bought 3 infantry and a AAA in Incheon, or in Seoul. And then up in Pyongyang, they bought 4 infantry, 4 mech, and 2 tanks, and saved 2 IPC. And then China with 35 bought 6 mech and a fighter. Combat. There was only one thing of combat that the North Koreans did this turn. They had 1 Katyusha self-propelled truck here in Seoul. They decided to do the adjacent artillery barrage into the 8th Army area. Again, the rule for shooting into for artillery and tanks to shoot into adjacent territories. Artillery and self-propelled artillery hit on a 2 or less. Tanks will hit on a 1. You get to select what units you shoot at, and then any units that are missed get to fire back at at 2 or less. So even if it's a tank, it'll defend at a 2 or less. Infantry will defend at a 2 or less. Any units will defend at a 2 or less when counter battery firing against who's ever barraging them. But so the North Korean Katyusha did an artillery barrage into Osan. It did kill 1 South Korean mech. So there was no counter battery fire from that mech unit in Osan. And then that was it for combat. So then at the end of the turn, North Korea collected 43 plus the 2 they saved for 45 IPC, while China collected 35 plus 1 that they saved for 36. All right, over to the Allies. Let's see, South Korea had 18 to spend, the U.S. had 50, and the UN had 22. Coming down here to purchases. South Korea once again bought 3 tanks. The U.S. once again bought 4 infantry, 4 mech, 4 self-propelled guns, 2 supply. Coming into the battle now, we have the 80th Infantry Division and the 29th Infantry Division. And then over here for the UN, once again, they bought 2 infantry, 2 mech, and a self-propelled gun. The Allies did not conduct any combat this turn, just non-combats. Moved a lot more forces here into the onto the 8th Army card. Let me see if I can get you guys a better look at that. So this is the 8th Army card. 4 infantry for the U.S. forces of the 8th Army, 4 infantry, 8 mech, 8 self-propelled guns, and a tank. South Korea has 2 mechs and 5 self-propelled guns, and then the UN has 8 fighters in Osan. So the Allied forces in Osan now have close air support to defend them. Meanwhile, these forces from Busan have moved forward. The Allies, the U.S. and South Korea landed forces here in Busan. The Americol and 35th Divisions have hit the ground, while the UN forces, the first major UN ground forces, have also now landed in Korea as well. And I suppose since I laid out what was on the 8th Army card, we can come up here real quick. So the communists have moved more forces in. So for the North Korean army, they have 10 infantry, 2 mech infantry, 3 Katyusha rocket trucks or Katyusha self-propelled guns, 3 Katyushas and 2 tanks. The Chinese have 3 infantry, 3 mech, 3 Katyushas, and then over here, their Air Force contingency, the North Koreans have 4 fighters and 3 jets, and the Chinese have 5 jets. So both sides have also amassed massive air units. Not to mention, the Allies still have 3 fighters and a jet here in the Korea Straits on the aircraft carriers, and they have a B-29 strategic bomber and a Lancaster strategic bomber now being based out of Busan. Alright, and then at the end of the turn, after all the non-combats, at the end of the turn, South Korea collected 18, the U.S. collected 50, and then the UN collected 20, but it did save 3, so the UN will have 23 for next turn. Alright, then coming up to the territory list, Communists are at 23, the Allies are at 14. This now ends turn 9, and we are now entering 1952. And we have also, like I said before, we have now hit the halfway mark. We are now 8 turns away from being done, or we are 8 turns away from the game ending. And so far, it's been going good. I mean, so far, Airsoft Commando and I have been enjoying our rules. As always, we won't be doing a mid-game review. We're just going to save all of our comments for the very end because when we met up today, we were sort of talking how we really don't have a lot to say. At least we don't have a lot of negative things to say. At least at this point, we don't have a lot of negative things to say. We have a lot of positives. Like I said, we're really enjoying this. And so, yeah. So that is going to be it for turn 9. And we will see you guys next time for turn 10. So until then, guys, as always, take care.